All right, welcome back to chapter 2 of Reality on Fire with author Alyee Sakin. Alyee, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Clint.
Yeah, I love diving into the book, but in chapter 1 you're sort of warming us up to these concepts. And this chapter you entitled it Shift Your Mind to Neutral. And I think I've got a quote for you here. Let me pull up my notes. It says, we can control our response to keep any situation balanced and not personal. Without energy on it, it's just an event, an experience, a fact. It's our projections, perceptions, emotions, and triggers that take us out of balance. Without all of that, it's just a fact. Talk to me about more of this neutral mind. And that's sort of a bold statement, because people are thinking like, lady, you don't know my life, right? But you've had life, right? You're speaking from experience here. Talk to me about this neutral mind thing.
So the neutral mind is a mind that we do not attach to. And as I speak about in later chapters, you have the mind, which for me is a separate entity than yourself, because since we can hear the mind and listen to what it says, it can't be us because we can actually hear it. And we can hear my mind say, oh, I'm hungry. Oh, do I want ice cream? And you hear someone else saying it and I'm witnessing it. So therefore I can't be it.
Right.
So that's the mind is separate. And that's why we say sometimes you have a monkey mind and your mind is going in circles and all of the
Mm,
things. And so keeping your mind neutral, as we say in Vipassana, which Vipassana is the act of seeing things as they truly are. And
mm.
it's also a 10-day meditation retreat where you meditate with no books, no speaking, no writing, nothing. And it's a beautiful thing to do if everyone definitely could do it in their lifetime once or more. And so the Vipassana teaches us not to have craving or aversion. So not to want something really bad and not to be like, oh no, not me, I'm not doing it, but to really be neutral, to be quantumous, to be balanced. And so to have a neutral mind is to witness things as they really are. Today is 90 degrees. It's 90 degrees. I'm not putting any energy on it. I'm not putting a past experience on it. I'm not putting
Mm.
my perception on it. I'm not putting my opinion on it. So I'm just like, it's 90. And so really like saying this is what it is. I live in Costa Rica. I'm not putting any opinion, emotion, feeling on it. And a lot of the time in life, especially when we're in confrontive situations and things that trigger us, to come back to a neutral mind, for me and my experience, is something that is able to calm me, to bring me back to myself, my true self, and to stay balanced instead of being really angry about it or really, really ecstatic about it, to really stay neutral. And like, neutral is between positive and negative. So you're not running around, like highs and lows, but you're in a neutral state, which feels peaceful.
Is that the same thing as homeostasis, or are you talking about something a little bit different?
I mean, it's homeostasis for the mind, for
Mm,
sure. So it's a place where you live, where you're not judging, you're not making up stories, you're not having a negative mindset, you're not having a positive mindset, you're not um, being insecure, you're not taking things on, and you're not projecting out. So yeah, you're just in a homeostasis place. You're in a very balanced place where someone could say, this happened at work, or all of these things are thrown at you, and you just remain neutral. You're not taking the energy and letting it define you. So Eckhart Tolle also taps into it when he says, a thought is just a thought. And
hmm.
then it's us that puts all of our energy and our experiences and our opinions on it. But when we take ourselves out of that, the thought is just what it is. It's just an event. It's a temperature. And we're the ones that our mind is the one that kind of spins with it, as we talked about in chapter 1, and the mind spinning down into a
Mm.
neutral mindset. So for me, being able to look at somebody neutrally and not be like, why are they acting that way? And then start judging them. They are being disrespectful, or they are a bad person. Why are they speaking to that? But just be neutral. Okay, that person seems really upset right now.
Yeah. I think I learned a version of this when I was younger. one of the first jobs I had as an adult and newly married, which I do not recommend what I'm about to tell you for a newlywed, but we became group home parents at effectively a modern day orphanage with teenagers that had a lot of challenges. And it wasn't that taxing on our marriage, but it was just difficult work. But the training they had us go through, because some of the kids could be violent and we needed to be safe for everybody, they would say what you see. The way to diffuse the kids is to say what you see. So you have a very pissed off 15-year-old boy who's bigger than me, and then you don't want to engage with them in hand-to-hand combat or something that's going to hurt somebody. So when they would come to you and yell or be vulnerable in a way, you would just say like, I see that you're standing and you have your arms crossed, right? You're yelling. We weren't saying stop it, that's bad, that makes me feel bad, right? We just were describing the scene, and what that was doing was broadening their awareness and grounding them back in the moment that they were. Because when you're that pissed off, sometimes you just aren't, you don't know what's going on. And that created a new practice for me of sort of, it wasn't about me. Usually, I mean, these kids showed up with a lot of stuff I never even found out about, but learning the practice of just neutrally describing it. Like you're yelling really loud and you're using a lot of profanity. And we would talk like that. And they would say, no, I'm not, you blankety blank blank. And you would say, it still sounds like you're yelling at me and using a lot of profanity. It sounds like you have something you want to say to me and I want to listen. And it was a way to disarm, and it worked fast. I mean, crazy fast. We could de-escalate these kids without ever standing up or confronting them or doing this like I'm in charge yell business. So I can validate, at least from my perspective, this practice of, in simple ways, letting things just be what they are, sort of a neutral fact. Where have you found this difficult to practice? Have you run into, do you have anything now that you're like, I get this, but boy, pulling it off in the moment, I could get academic later and say how I could have been neutral, but I don't have access to it.
I mean, yeah, all of life.
You're still human.
Yeah, like, just having a neutral mind takes work, even
Mm,
I don't even know. The other day my car battery died. And so
mm,
I was like, oh my God, the battery died. It's so hot. I just want to have it. Why is this happening? And then it's like, okay, someone's coming. I'm so grateful. Someone's coming to help me. We jump it. We get into town. It dies again. And again, I could go into story really fast, or I could be like, okay, you could just accept this is what is. This is what's
yeah,
happening. It died again. I'm
yeah.
going to not go positive or negative with this. I'm just going to be neutral. Like, this is what's happening. How do I deal with it? And so, yeah, on any sort of basis, if a friend's running late and you're waiting around and I start to go into story, I could have stayed at my house and done a lot of different things. I had a lot more to do. They're disrespectful. They're this, that, or that. Or do I just stay neutral? Okay, this is what's happening. I'm already where I'm supposed to meet them. How can I make this work for me? How can I just stay neutral? Like acceptance, really just accepting what is and not immediately judging it or falling into a trap of going negative.
Mm,
So, and again, recognizing that it's your ego, which is that part of your mind that we name, that's the one doing the thinking and the monkey mind and the making up stories, this ego part of you that will say, no, you should be mad, this person's disrespectful, you shouldn't make plans with them anymore, you should just go home. And the ego is really talking, and you
mm,
get to say, okay, again, have choice, like we talked about in chapter 1, but okay, I can choose. Do I want to stay here and wait for them? Do I want to go? Well, we have plans. I may as well stay. They said they'll be here in the next 30 minutes. Okay, I'm going to stay neutral because I don't want to sit in a negative state. And even when you can also use it when sometimes we get so hyped up in a positive way,
mm.
right? Like, oh my God, I'm going on this date. I can't wait. I'm so excited. Oh my God, I can't breathe. We get ourselves into this, which is fun for a minute, but then you're like, wait, let me just be neutral. It's only the first date. I've never met this person. Or maybe I've met them once. I don't know them at all. I'm just going to stay neutral and experience this in every now moment instead of projecting or making up stories or living from past experiences? How do I remain neutral in this?
Yeah, that is, does that sort of go hand in hand with being present?
Sure, yes, yes. So remaining neutral is being present and accepting what is.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
yeah, when you're present, not only being present, but you're also accepting what is. But yes, presence is definitely a part of it. And I'm going to be present in this now moment. This is what's happening. And then I'm going to accept it, what it is. I'm not going to go negative or positive. And you know, like I said, it's fun to even be in the positive thing, but then when you go so high, you give yourself room to that you have to come down. But if you maintain no craving, no wanting something really, really bad, and no aversion, I don't want this to happen, and you just remain neutral, I trust that whatever happens is happening for the highest good, then I can stay in a neutral state. And so probably the last few days, the last week, the last year of my life, it's like, how can I remain neutral when things aren't going the way I want them to go? And
Mhm.
just know that this is what's happening. So I don't really want to be, there's nothing I can do. So, and how being in neutral takes away having to control, and having to control actually causes anxiety and stress because we can't control anything.
Yeah, yeah. What you made me think of, and what the story I'm about to share with you might sound a little bit psychotic for some people, and so I apologize for those of you who are going to write me off for this. But in my sort of practicing being present, I'm very much a futurist. Like, I love the future. I love talking about things in the future. I'm not nostalgic. The past doesn't really have a whole lot of weight in my world. And learning to be present and not labeling things. Last year, I was on a farm helping the farmer move some animals around, and they had a bucket of apples that they fed their pigs, and the bees were doing their thing because bees like apples. And so there was a risk. They said, when you move that barrel, you could get stung. And I know that I'm not allergic to bee stings and I handle it pretty well. And I thought, well, we got to move it. Like, I got to get it on the tractor, the little forklift thing. And like, there's just not a way to avoid this. And sure enough, I got stung right on my forearm. And it was the first time in my life I've been stung where I didn't freak out like we normally do when you go, ow, that we all have that sort of natural thing. It was like I went in expecting it, this being the circumstances. The bees didn't want me there. They didn't invite me to the party. And as I grab this barrel, a bee lands and stings, and I look at it and I can see it doing its thing. And in sort of a weird poetic moment, like, that's the end of that bee's life. Like, he was so committed to guarding these apples, he sacrificed himself. And I just pulled him off because he's committed to the task at hand. And it hurt, but I didn't say, oh, this is bad. I shouldn't be out here. I can't believe this happened to me. There was none of that chatter in my mind. It was just like, this is a bee, the bee stinging me. And again, that sounds crazy, but it's in my world, that might be something severe enough I would notice it. And I just pulled him off and, threw him on the ground. And the farmer was like, did a bee just sting you? And I'm like, yeah, you know, I think I'll be fine. And we went on about the business. But it was the first time I had something that was so poignantly easy to be negative and cuss and throw stuff and things you would be reasonable to do if you got stung by a bee. And my mind was so calm. And I was like, no, he's doing his job. Like, I'm the one who got in his space.
Wow.
Um, and so I think that for me, that's a really severe example, or maybe for someone else it's severe, but for me it's normal. But I think that it reminded me how much power of choice you have in these, to not be positive or negative about it, but to just be there. And surprisingly, I
Be
think
there.
yeah, be there. Surprisingly, I think the pain was less because I didn't have all the endorphins and all the anger and all the freak out. Um,
Makes sense.
yeah, we just went on about it. So
I mean, that was really beautiful because you just said the pain was less. And that's like what it is, right? When you are
yeah,
in a neutral mind, the pain is less. You don't take it on, you don't experience it. So if you can't go positive with your mindset, go neutral.
yeah.
So like you couldn't go positive, like you weren't like, oh my God, this is amazing. A
I'm
bee
so
stung
lucky.
me. I'm having the best day.
I'm
But
chosen.
so you stayed neutral, and and you didn't make up any story,
Mm-hmm.
and you didn't allow the ego to tell you, oh, of course you got stung, of course this happened to you, all of the things, the farmer
Mm-hmm.
didn't warn you, whatever it was. And so of course the pain was less, and that's what happens, right? And the pain is less. So all of the things in the book are really about how can we live our best life and take ourselves out of suffering and
Mm-hmm.
pain and live in a healthier, more joyful way. And the
Mm-hmm.
pain will be less, the suffering will be less if we do these conscious practices like you did.
I want to sort of, as we head into sort of the second half of this chapter two, I've got a couple of questions I want you to sort of, I'm going to lump them together because I think they go together, but you talk about this idea of creating space between you and your mind. And the question I have is, who are you aside of your mind? Help me understand it like I'm brand new on, you alluded to it earlier that you can have an experience where you're thinking about yourself thinking, so it can't be there's two things going on. How did you start to separate those, or what do you do to continually understand that there's more than just the thoughts you have are you, that's it, it's all one thing, and you're talking about that there's almost separate beings happening?
And so you're asking, how do I separate it within myself?
Yeah, how do you, like, help me better understand the idea that I am not my mind?
Um, so the first thing is you can witness your mind, so therefore you aren't that. And
Mm-hmm.
then being able to observe it, as we've talked about before in chapter one and throughout the book,
Yeah.
observing and witnessing yourself and hearing that mind and knowing that more you're in an emotion. So you're in
Mm,
angry, sad, you're more in an emotion, but you're not, and your mind will take that emotion and spin with it and make up stories. And so you're not your mind, because when you're in true bliss or happiness, or you're in meditation, or like you're in a complete state of connection, but
mm,
calmness and peace, that's you. That's who you truly are, or you're in joy, like you can feel in your gut, in your sacral chakra, down in your root, like in your core, who you
mm-hmm,
truly are. And so
mm,
even these people that are killing other people or all these things, they're not that person. Like we're
mm,
all born human. And so knowing that the mind is a separate entity that is telling us lots of things all the time. So when you say my mind is going crazy, my mind is making up stories, my mind is telling me my partner's cheating on me,
mm,
you know that that's not you, because if you really grounded and came back to who you truly are, you are a state of bliss. You are trust. You are the soul who is just that, is neutral. And so knowing, again, by hearing your mind, by witnessing your mind, by hearing the ego, and knowing like, I would never, sometimes we're like, I wouldn't, why am I even thinking this? This isn't me,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
or like sometimes we get jealous, or and you're like, this isn't really who I am. Then you're like, who is that? Why would it, or sometimes I say things unconsciously, and I'll
Mm,
say something and I'm like, wait, I just said I'm hungry. I'm actually not hungry. Why did I say that? And
mm,
it's from a pattern or a programming or something else that's not actually you. And we've all caught ourselves doing that, right? We're
yeah,
like, this isn't how I would usually act. Maybe it's because, like you said, I'm tired and I haven't slept, or
yeah.
because I'm hungry, or because I've, someone just passed away in my family, because that's not me. You're right. It's not you. It's something else that's acting that way because that's how it wants to be. And so noticing that, and noticing, when you also have a parent or someone teach you how to be when you're a child, and then you do that. And then at one point you become aware and you're like, wait, I never wanted to hurt anyone. I don't
Mm,
want to scream profanities at my partner or my friend. Why am I doing that? It's something I learned. It's a learned behavior. That's not truly me. So when you begin to know who you truly are, then there's a separation. There's who you truly are, and then there's the ego, the mind that is there to protect, for protection and for safety, and to say, Alyee, you better get out of here. Remember when this happened last time? And to bring in the past experiences, and remind you, we're here to protect you. You better get out. But I'm like, wait, I'm in the present moment. This person hasn't done anything to harm me. So you can actually like talk to your mind. And like when you say, sometimes we say, and I do, I have the angel and the devil. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes the angel's like, go ahead, do that thing. You're amazing. Like, wow, you're just different. And that's why this person doesn't like you. And the devil's like, no, they don't like you because you're annoying and you're talking too much. And so because you can witness it, you are not that.
Yeah, yeah. I think that'll be really helpful um for many people, because they might find themselves at the end of a set of decisions or actions or behaviors that they think like, man, I'd like a do-over because that doesn't represent me or what I truly believe. Or I keep,
Mhm.
you know, repeating a behavior that, why? Like, I wouldn't do that on paper. If someone wrote down to do it, I wouldn't do it. I think this chapter is going to be really important for understanding chapter 3 about story. You call it story time. It's story time about the sort of stories we tell ourselves. I think this will be a good platform to be on. If you're just finishing this recording of chapter 2, go back and catch chapter 1 before you jump into 3, so you know what the heck's going on. What we're doing right now, if you just jumped in somehow, a friend sent this to you partway through, we're interviewing Alyee Sakin, author of Reality on Fire, on the various chapters of her book. This is chapter 2. In the links below in the description, those fields, you can click over to her various accounts and follow her project, so you know when the book's coming out and how to participate in her other courses and trainings and that sort of stuff. Alyee, thank you for taking the time today to break down chapter 2 with me. I really appreciate it. I'm super excited to jump into chapter 3, and I'm glad that we could align our schedules. Thanks.
Thanks, Clint.